Welcome back to On the Light. I'm your host, Susan Johnson. This is the third conversation in my series with Prashant Iyengar, exploring the history of yoga. In our previous two episodes, Prashantji encouraged us to understand our own history before turning to the history of the yoga tradition itself. Today, we begin exploring that tradition. Prashantji explains that the relationship between the classical text and the living teacher, reminding us that while the text illuminates the path, the guru must customize the teaching according to the individual student, the time, and the circumstances. Please enjoy this episode of On the Light. Hello, sir.
Hello.
So the last two conversations we've had on the history of yoga, you explained that in order to understand the history of yoga, we first have to start with understanding the history of ourselves. So today I'm wondering, can we take a look at the roots of the...
Fine. Yeah, I follow. Yeah. See, there are two aspects in the tradition of yoga or legacy of yoga. One is that we have a textual legacy, and the other one is legacy of parampara. That is actual transmission of yoga from generation to generation, from guru to shishya. So these are two aspects of our tradition. At the outset, let me make it clear, insofar as the texts of yoga are concerned, the texts are not teachers. Texts won't teach. Texts won't guide the learner. They are texts on yoga. Texts have to be understood. And then texts have to be implemented. So the text will tell you what yoga is. But when it comes to practicality of learning yoga, we should understand that it has to be customized, because the learner, the student, might be man or woman. The student might be young or old, from childhood to old age. Anyone can embark upon the knowledge process. At any stage of life, one can get onto the track of knowledge process of yoga. And then it has to be customized. The teacher has to customize the teaching considering the age, potentials, dispositions, and powers of lack of powers, abilities or lack of abilities. Now, text cannot be considering all those things. The text will be like what they call it, lighthouse. The ocean cannot have merely lighthouse and no ships, no vessels, and no navigators. So understand in an ocean how much the navigator contributes for our journey from origination to destination, and what is the role of lighthouses. So also in today's world, we have aviation, and then we have ATC. We just can't have airports and aircrafts and pilots. that is not sufficient. Like in case of a car, if you have a car, you have a chauffeur, you can drive through with a car, But in case of aviation, you just can't have someone, a flight officer or a pilot and passengers and airplane. So you require something that is called as ATC, which will consider the real time conditions, and then only aircraft can be flying. So the text won't provide you that because it has to be customized, which depends upon desha, kala, sthiti, and vyakti. Desha, kala. Desha means region, space, location. Kala means time. So desha, kala, time and space. We know these dimensions. So also situation. Now, when you come to learn yoga from me, suppose you are distressed and you want to start yoga. That is one way to start yoga. And suppose you have no distress, but you have overflowing enthusiasm. I will have to teach differently. If you are strong, there is one way to go about. If you are weak, another way to go about. Physically strong, physically weak, intellectually strong, intellectually weak. Because it is not only you have to do it, you have to understand it. So the IQ is also important. As today, world believes that yoga that we understand today is physical culture. You must have uh, disposed body, strong body, etc., to be pursuing yoga. Otherwise, you can have diseased body to take the remedial yoga, but you must have a disease. So it has a subjective touch. When it comes to teaching of yoga, there is a subjective consideration, subjective touch. So desha, kala, samaya, the actual time, sthiti, that is your condition. As I just now said, if you are highly distressed, as a teacher have to devise your teachings, how to commence. If you are not in distress, if you have a normal mind, another way to go about. If you are having self-conceit and pride and arrogance, I will have to go differently. If you are having faith and dedication, it is one way to go. You can also perhaps start learning yoga by being a skeptic. And it will be different way to tackle that student. So this personal touch, the textual tradition cannot consider these subjective things. And therefore, we have two traditions. One is textual tradition, and the other one is uh, teaching tradition, which considers the given time. I just want all of Guruji students to imagine if you came in contact with Guruji 100 years before, it would not have been the same way that happened after 100 years. If somebody started in 1980, if somebody came to Guruji in 1880, it would not be done as it was done in 1980. Time plays a very important role when it comes to actually the direct impartation, direct interaction. And therefore, we have two traditions. This should be understood at the outset. Secondly, the texts won't teach. They will tell you what is yoga and what should happen by yoga. So, by that, we get little guidelines. If such thing is not happening, then perhaps we will think that, well, we are going wrong. So the text will guide you in that sense, telling you what yoga is and what happens through yoga. Now, just I will take one example today and then we'll proceed further. Say now, a principle such as ahimsa is taken as non-killing, non-injury, etc., etc. This is how it is rendered. So, what is going to happen? Suppose you are practicing that moral, ethical ahimsa, a normative principle. So, whole world thinks that yamas and niyamas are normative principles. And therefore, some of them are dogmatically saying you must first practice yamas. You should not go to asana pranayam at all. That's the first step, they say. Nowhere it is said it is the first step. It is one of the limbs. It is not said that there is nothing like first limb and second limb and third limb and fourth limb. The limbs are limbs. But there are some dogmatic people who say yamas are the first principle. That means yoga should start with yamas. What are yamas? Are normative principles, moral, ethical principles. Now let's infer that somebody is practicing moral, ethical principle, as the whole world believes. Ahimsa is a moral, ethical principle. So also Satya, so also Asteya, Brahmacharya, etc., Shaucha, Santosha, etc., etc. These are normative principles. So suppose you practice these normative principles. An example here is ahimsa. What is going to happen? Tell me. At the most, people will know that you are harmless person. Nobody will ever uh, expect any harm coming out of you. So they will say you are a very harmless person. And maybe some amount of credibility will be coming. So if you practice normative principles, moral ethical principles, you perhaps can become at the most value for society and you will become trustworthy person for society. People will trust you. If you are compromising with moral ethical principles, you will lose the credibility.
Yeah.
And therefore, if you practice moral ethical principles, you will gain credibility. People will trust you. People will perhaps respect you, honor you. Perhaps they will like you. They will appreciate you. They will uh, felicitate you, honor you, etc., etc. Oh, that is at the most consequence of practicing moral ethical principles. And here, an example, himsa, ahimsa. If you practice ahimsa and you refrain from himsa, what at the most is going to happen? Tell me. See, it doesn't keep you safe if you are practicing ahimsa. Others will be kept safe. Is that right?
Yeah.
People will be safe if you are around. That doesn't ensure that you are safe if people are around.
I've always like thought about the yamas and yamas in terms of having those established before any of the other limbs. It seems like one would have to at least have them under some kind of control in order for the mind to be able to go to the other limbs. Like if a person is violent or a thief,
Yeah.
they're not going to be able to be with themselves, right? And to go into
Yeah.
yeah.
So if you practice that as a moral ethical principles, it doesn't ensure your safety. It perhaps will create more danger to you because they know that you are not going to offend, you are not going to be offensive or even defensive. You won't defend or you won't be offensive. You won't take out your pistol. So they are very sure that you are not going to counter attack, etc. So
Yeah.
you will be unsafe. The world around you will be safe.
Mm.
So, same is the case of other principles. So, they should not be looked at moral ethical principles and normative principles. And that's why we say it is achara dharma niti mimamsa. When we try to understand yamas and niyamas, it is an inquiry. What are yamas? Why are yamas? What are niyamas? Why are niyamas? How are yamas? How are niyamas? So it's an inquiry. It is normative principles have to be just adhered to. You don't have to inquire as to what is truth and what is untruth and what is himsa and what is ahimsa. There is no inquiry. It is something enjoined on you that you must practice these principles.
Mm-hmm.
So these are called achara dharma niti mimamsa. Mimamsa means inquiry. Inquiry into what? Achara dharma. Niti dharma. It is dharma. Anyway, for dharma there is no English word, but I'm uh, little sure that people who will hear will be clear about that dharma is not religion and faith.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that is at the most gain or loss. You are going to lose by practicing satya. You are going to gain by being by practicing satya. People will believe you. People will trust you. People will you will have credibility. But if you speak the truth unconditionally, you might at times be loser. You might yourself be endangering yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand? If you speak the truth, and that's the condition that you are going to not compromise, I will be always speaking the truth. I will be always speaking the truth. You will be in danger. You will be in danger zone. You will not be able to protect. That's why sometimes we lie for our defense. So why do we lie, and why do you speak truth? Has to be analyzed, has to be inquired. It's not something to be followed merely. There has to be inquiry into. Natural tendency is to lie. Now, why do we lie? How can we, if we want to overcome that violation, we must uproot the cause which makes us adhere to uh, untruth. So we have to analyze a self-inquiry or inquiry generally as to why someone lies. There are several reasons why somebody lies. And there are certain reasons why people speak the truth. If the truth is advantageous to me, I will certainly speak the truth. If I'm going to gain by exposing someone, if somebody promises me that if I expose someone by speaking the truth, maybe I will gain something. Now, that is not a good truth. That is not a virtuous truth. That is not truth in dharma. So, merely speaking the truth unconditionally is not dharma. In dharma, you have to understand situation, condition, time, space, etc., etc., who are around, what is the position, condition. So it is a real time condition where one has to take decision, and sometimes speaking untruth
Yeah.
will be meritorious to save someone. As an example, so that you don't have to think over it, because then your brain will be spinning. Now suppose the neighbor, somebody says, I want to kill your neighbor, uh, and this is the person. Which is the door? Should I knock?
Mm.
Now I should lie, saying that no, that person is gone out of station, so there's no point. You will not get him. Now he is very much in the room.
Mm.
I am lying. Now this lying will save his life. So there is virtuous lie. There is virtuous untruth as well. That is why we put it into dharma.
Mm.
So it is not just unconditional moral ethical principle. Come what may, I am going to speak the truth and never speak the untruth. You violate your humanness. You are depreciating your humanness. Anyway, so pros and cons have to be understood. And therefore, there has to be inquiry into why to speak truth, how to speak truth, when to speak truth, with whom to speak truth. You can't just be broadcasting the truth. Everyone, anyone go on speaking the truth. It is not like that. Practically, it is not like that. You require some prudence, you require some judgments, you require some wisdom to speak the truth. Just because you know the truth, it is foolish to speak the truth. Anyway, that is dharma. So, um, that is why it's an inquiry. Yamas. Why yamas? What are the violations of yamas? Why the yamas are violated? Why the niyamas are violated? Etc. etc. So now, with respect to ahimsa as an example, we took what at the most you are going to gain. You are going to either gain or you will lose as well. Either you will perish by taking recourse to ahimsa, unconditional ahimsa, anywhere ahimsa, everywhere ahimsa, with anyone ahimsa, 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 not to be violated, not to be violated, you will perish. Or if you don't perish, at the most people will give you highest credibility, etc., etc. But what does Patanjali say? If ahimsa is conquered, he doesn't say these things that you will be trustworthy person and you will be acclaimed person, felicitated person, honored person, respected person. He doesn't say anything like that. So he says ahimsa pratisthayam tat sannidhau vairatyagaha. So suppose I am in ahimsa yama, as Patanjali puts it. If I am adhering to Patanjali and not a normative science or normative scientist or normative philosopher, if I adhere to Patanjali, the result will be in my vicinity, the sworn enemies also will lose the enmity. Now, will this happen to a person who practices moral, ethical moral ahimsa? This cannot happen. Any stretch of imagination, this cannot happen. That the sworn enemies will give up the enmity. Say, for instance, it is cobra and mungus. Now they are mutual aliens, or an eagle and a snake. The snake is a prey animal to eagle. So they will give up the enmity. A tiger and an antelope or deer. You can't expect that the tiger will go and embrace and hello, how do you do, deer? How do you do, antelope? Come, let's go for a party. This cannot happen. The tiger makes a party out of antelope or deer. But in the vicinity of a yogi, the enmity will be given up by aliens. This is the result of ahimsa and dharma tattva. When it is uh, practiced to highest level. So until that time, the little inferior effects will be coming. So that's how the text will tell you about what is the ahimsa and what is the effect of ahimsa and why ahimsa is violated, which Patanjali brings in that marvelous sutra. हिंसा वितर्का हिंसादया कृतकारिता अनुमोदित लोभ मोह क्रोध पूर्वक मृदुमंद आदि मात्रत्वात्, etc. That longest sutra of the text. So he has beautifully given pathology of why yamas are violated, niyamas are violated, ashtangas are violated. So it's a beautiful pathology. So he also discusses himsa. Otherwise, these people only, normative philosophers only say practice ahimsa, practice ahimsa, practice ahimsa, not even know himsa. Because if somebody knows himsa, that by wielding a knife or by pistol or a gun, pen gun, etc., one can be attacking someone and killing someone. So nothing is said about himsa. It is only a norm. Practice ahimsa. Anyway, the texts are important for any inquiry that is important. We must inquire for the sake of study. We require texts. But then practical learning depends upon the one-to-one instructions between a teacher and student. And as I said in the beginning, we have two traditions. One is textual tradition, the other one is Guru Shishya Parampara tradition, actual imparting of yoga, where the teacher will take a call, assessing the student, judging the student, understanding the student, what should be taught and how something should be taught. So this is important, that this is also going without any break. The teaching tradition has been there from time immemorial. Now, this is indeed a marvel. Maybe sometimes it disappeared, possible, and it will disappear sometimes, but it will be revived. It will come back. Not that there is a continuous or continuum of tradition going on, eon after eon after eon after eon. No, there will be some interruptions, but it can be revived because there are people who practice dharma and then they will come. Like Guruji came in a point in time. There might be some people who will claim there was no yoga, this kind of yoga before Guruji came. Because of Guruji, we got this yoga, etc., etc. That means what? There was a void to the kind of yoga that is appealing to them. Guruji could not say that I am coming from a tradition, so this is how it was taught earlier, and I am transmitting that. He said that's why it happened that Iyengar yoga system came about. Where was Iyengar system before BKS was born? So the things will go and come. But the continuity is ensured with maybe interruptions for whatever tens of years, hundreds of years, thousands of years, but that is just a bubble. If you consider the infinite flow of the time, endless flow of the time. Anyway, so we have these two traditions. So for direct teaching, the teacher should be educated sufficiently to devise and customize the teaching depending upon the recipient of instructions, the recipient of wisdom that is imparted. The point is, it has to be customized. Time to time, it will change. Analogies change, processes change, instruments change. Now, you can't say that 1,000 years back there was an institute, they had wall ropes, there were ceiling ropes. Now, today we know that we cannot imagine yoga without any such thing. So, prior to belts and bricks, they were not there. But then, time to time, we have to devise and customize, taking into consideration the real time situations. So we need to be creative. The texts are not creative. Patanjali's text has been there ever since it was penned down. It was not modified, it was not redressed, it has been the same. So that is the constancy principle. Bhagavad Gita has been the same for last 5,000 plus years. It is not that Bhagavad Gita has been modified for different centuries and millennia. It's a fifth millennia after Bhagavad Gita actually happened. It is not that it is reshaped and reformed, but it is the same. So the constant principle, we must be hooking ourselves to essential constant principles, and that's why we need the texts. If the texts are gone, we don't have something to hook onto.
Yeah.
So texts are very, very important. Otherwise, the things will go on changing. So I will give you an interesting analogy here. It is called, you all call it like Chinese whisper. You know that game, Chinese whisper.
I don't know that game.
Now, if the teacher is teaching orally, the student is hearing auditorily. So it is transmitted from mouth to ear, mouth to ear, mouth to ear, or maybe eyes to mind, eyes to mind, eyes to mind. If it is something to be seen, then they will see, and then the mind will take it something. If it is something theoretical aspect, oral, auditory, oral, auditory, oral, auditory. Now, this can end up in a very a precarious situation, or it can be a comedy of errors. This happens in that game,
Yeah.
which I told it is called Chinese Whisper.
We have that here. It's just not called Chinese
Mhm.
whisper. Yeah.
Yeah, because I talk in the class, you hear in the class. Then you talk something out of what I have talked, and then next generation hears that. That generation talks based on what you talked, and you based on what I talked. Now it gets totally mutilated. It can happen. By the time 100th recipient receives the original message, it will be completely distorted. It can be completely perverted even. So that is the danger in oral transmissions, or the teaching depending upon oral transmissions, empirical transmissions. Even when I teach a class, there are 100 people in front of me, but the 100 people don't catch it identically. I say one thing, but 10 people or 100 people take it in 100 different ways. This is the problem and danger. Therefore, we must have something to hook on to.
Mhm.
Now, if you don't have any anchoring facility or hooking facility, then it will become loose, and so loose that ultimately it will be totally disfigured wisdom. Lots of indentations, so much so that the wisdom becomes stupidity. It can be ultimately stupidity going to the last person, or even 100%. 100 generations of I teach you, you teach someone, that someone teaches someone, that someone teaches someone. Now, understand how much mutiny can take place if we don't have a lighthouse.
Yeah.
So that is, therefore, textual tradition is also equally important. And this parampara, Guru Shishya parampara, is also important. The Guru Shishya parampara will be lost sometime. It's not, it is always continuous. We all speak about legacy, legacy, legacy. It doesn't happen. It will not happen. It is not possible.
Mhm.
But textual tradition continues. So that's why it is lighthouse like a thing. That's why we must study the text, and not just listen from hear from a teacher and learn from a teacher who is outside you. So the Patanjali's text has been the same ever since it was penned down. There were no new editions like version, improved edition, improvised edition, etc., etc. It has been the same. Word to word by word, Bhagavad Gita has been the same. Upanishads have been the same. The Yoga Sutras have been the same. The Shastras have been the same. There is no, the interpolations, etc. So we have taken care to see that there are no interpolations. And that's why oral tradition is there. We by heart the sutras. So any interpolation come will be filtered and will not be admitted at all. I cannot add another sutra to Yoga Sutras. I cannot add 196th sutra to 195 by Patanjali. So that is also preserved by textual tradition because the text has been uh, imparted generation by generation by generation. Maybe some interruptions have come, but the text has been there. The text has not got disfigured. There is no way that they will get disfigured. It is because we have oral tradition. Yoga Sutras were not in written form. Patanjali did not write Yoga Sutras. He formulated Yoga Sutras, and there was no printing technology in his time, which, as they say, it is something like 300 BC, etc., etc. How was it preserved from 300 BC to uh, 2026 CE? So it has been the same. Now, that is also praiseworthy that how the tradition has been maintained. Incidentally, let me tell you, because I just now said about 195 sutras of Patanjali. Some of you might say in Guruji's text there are 196 sutras.
Mm.
So one might say there is addition of a sutra. No, there was never ever an addition. In my book, you get 195. In Guruji's book, you get 196. Nobody has come and questioned why this. It is sorry state of affairs. People should have inquired why is it that I have lessened one sutra from Guruji's 196. There are no 196 sutras. The text is maintained when it is 195 sutra text and when it is 196 sutra text. Now, what's the problem? What is the reason that there is additional sutra? I adhere to Vyasa Bhashya.
Uh-huh.
In my commentary, I adhere to Vyasa Bhashya. And the 196th sutra, which you get in Guruji's text, is the first statement of a sutra.
Mm.
After the 195 sutra, 95th sutra, the 190, the sutra there, which is particular where you get addition, the first statement in the commentary is taken as sutra. And therefore, that is Vyasa's commentary. That's the statement of Vyasa's commentary. So, Bhojaraj is one who did not adhere to Vyasa's commentary. So, he introduced that additional sutra, which is a comment of Vyasa. He wrote his own commentary without adherence to Vyasa's commentary or the scholium of Vyasa called Bhashya. He
Hmm.
wrote his independent tika or a commentary. And
So
therein,
Hatha Yoga Anushasanam? That?
no,
Oh.
that Atha Yoganushasana, but this comes in third chapter
Oh.
where Antardhanam is mentioned, how yogi disappears.
Oh.
So that is disappearance of the form. And towards the end, the Patanjali Vyasa in the commentary says, similarly, there is disappearance of sound, etc. Now that is Vyasa's commentary. And Bhoja maintained that and he made it additional sutra. And that's why in Guruji's text, you get 196 sutras. That additional sutra, Etenu Shabdadi Antardhanam, that is actually a commentary of Vyasa. Because I was adhering to Vyasa, I could not take it as a sutra because that was a part of commentary.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so there is no additional sutra that, or I have reduced one sutra at Guruji from Guruji's text. Every statement of Guruji's 196 is covered, and that one sutra is covered in Vyasa's commentary. Therefore, 195 sutras in my uh, commentary or my explanation, and 196 in Guruji's, because Guruji perhaps looked into Bhoja. Anyway, there is no additional sutra or somebody having less sutras, somebody having more sutras. They are 195.
Okay.
So that gives us to some kind of to hook on, and that works as a lighthouse. Therefore, textual tradition should be studied. We don't study yoga, we practice yoga. This is the problem of our times. Everyone says, I practice yoga, I practice yoga, I sincerely practice yoga, I regularly practice yoga, I never fail in my practice. Nobody studies. And that's why this problem of Chinese gossip will happen. And it is already happening.
Yes.
It's already happening because nobody formally studies yoga. Yoga has not been looked at as something to study, but something to practice. Now, this is a major flaw which has been there for last 100 years plus. They don't understand yoga as a subject to be studied as well. I don't just study. It is to be studied as well or practiced as well. If you study, it is to be practiced as well. If you practice, that is studied as well. And that's why I have been perhaps going little overboard, according to some people's um, taking, education in yoga. I say that there has to be education about yoga.
Mhm.
So education means there will be inquiry, there will be some sort of testimonies given importance, and not just experience. I feel fine in Shirshasana, therefore the Shirshasana is fine. This is nonsense. I feel fine in Sarvangasana, therefore Sarvangasana is fine. I don't feel fine in Sarvangasana, therefore Sarvangasana is not good. Is also valid inference.
Mm.
Shirshasana is not good for me, therefore it is not good. Can be inference. And valid inference as well. So we have to understand these two traditions. Now, when I say classical yoga, I'm not referring to time. We are some of the texts, as far as my knowledge goes, the last classical text on yoga was penned down little before 1935, just about 90 years back. And I have quoted that text in my book. He was called Gulab Rao Maharaj. I have quoted him many times in my commentary. He was the follower of Gnaneshwar Maharaj. Gnaneshwar Maharaj was in 13th century, and this Gulab Rao Maharaj was from 20th century, and now I am in 21st century. So we don't have to go to remote past, 13th century, 12th century, 10th century, 15th century, 16th century. That they have been penned down. There are texts of 19th century, there are texts of 18th century, which are as valid as any ancient text of yoga. So when I say classical means it's not time. I am not referring to time, 1,000 years back, 2,000 years back, 5,000 years back. We have this tradition and people are contributing because that is why our dharma, Sanatan dharma, is said to be eternal. Why it is eternal? Because it needs reinterpretations time to time. So it has been reinterpreted, shaped so that we do not divorce with the cord. Time to time, we must modify. As I said, if you the change is irrefutable condition. The change cannot be stopped. But the change can be similar or dissimilar. In order that it is a similar change, we'll have to have new analogies, new metaphors, certain metaphors which were used in 500 years back will not be understood today. We will not be suitable today. So we'll have to the ornamentation to transmit the subject. We'll have to take recourse to analogies, examples, illustrations, similes, metaphors. These will change from time to time. And therefore, there is that flexibility. But however, we are anchored to the source text.
Mhm.
Now, as far as the texts are concerned, we can have two divisions of it. One is post Patanjali and one is pre Patanjali. Because Patanjali was not a, uh, a propounder of the subject, he was expounder of the subject.
Mhm.
Yoga was there before Patanjali. Patanjali doesn't say, I am giving you the subject of yoga. He says, I am giving you yoga which has come from tradition, long tradition prior to Patanjali. So we can divide that. There are textual traditions prior to Patanjali, textual tradition post Patanjali. Now, post Patanjali means it amounts to, according to modern ethnologists, about 2,600, 2,800 years. And then prior to Patanjali, endless time. The original, the source of yoga can be traced in one of the hymns of Rig Veda, Vedas, Rig Veda. Again, let me clarify here. People believe Rig Veda came first, then came Yajurveda, then came the Samaveda, then came Atharvaveda. It's all utter nonsense. It's not true. It is not Rig Veda is the oldest of four Vedas. There is nothing like that. They all came simultaneously. There was only one Veda. Vyasa divided into four for convenience of imparting.
Mm.
And time to time, it has been divided. It's not the first time Vyasa divided 5,000 years back. Vyasa appeared several times before uh, the last incarnation of his during Mahabharata time. So these things are not known to people. There were four Vedas even prior to Vyasa, but it had to be revived. It had to be revived because the things have to be revived. The things go into oblivion. They have to be revived. Vedas are only one originally, and then they are divided for convenience of the imparting of it, formal approach to Vedas, study of Vedas, etc. It was divided. That's all.
Okay.
So the Vedas have been there. The Vedas that we have today are 1,960 plus million years ago. In this cycle, we got it, which is now nearly 2 million years ago, 2,000 billion years ago. 2,000 billion years ago, that is 2 billion years ago. We got the Vedas for our creation. Prior to that, there were the creations prior to this creation. So in every creation, Vedas come at an opportune time, right time. So now The Vedas that we have today are 2 billion years old. Now they have come down to us for in these 2 billion years. So that text has been constant. In previous cycle, these were same Vedas. Not that there were different Vedas. Vedas have been timeless. They have to appear because there is dissolution. That just as we have day and night, there is day and night of the universe. So there is night of the universe. Universe is nominal. Then there is a birth of the universe where it becomes phenomenal. So this is a cyclic process. Countless cycles have elapsed. So Vedas appear in every creation. They are exhalations of divinity. He exhales Vedas. And therefore they are revealed by seers, rishis and munis. They hear it. The Vedas are heard. Nobody gives them a text of these are Vedas and now by heart them. They are heard. Therefore they are called Shruti. Shruti means heard. Vedas are heard. The first or original starting point of the Vedas are heard. Then later they were printed when the printing technology came. Before that, they were inscribing somewhere or it was on the leaf, etc., etc. It was written, etc. Anyway, the texts are constant. The texts don't change. Ramayana has been there for whatever years have elapsed, which is nearly more than 800,000 years since Ramayana happened. 800,000 years, more than 8.64, 864,000 years before that. So it could be 900,000 or 100,000, 100,000, etc. That's when Ramayana happened. And Valmiki wrote Ramayana during Rama's time. So now understand that Valmiki Ramayana, the text of Srimad Ramayana, is nearly 100,000 years old. 100,000 years old. It has been maintained intact because of the oral transmission. This is great sacrifice of our generations that the texts have been maintained intact. So the textual tradition is also important. So in different eras, the same text was imparted differently. Now today I'm imparting it in English. Mm-hmm. It was not imparted in English 5,000 years back. But today it is with English. That today I am bringing the analogies which are suitable to our time. I cannot bring antiquated analogies and examples which will be meaningless. So the texts are passed on by Guru Shishya Parampara. Again, understand the relationship between the textual corpus and the practical imparting of yoga. There is that thick cord between the textual tradition, and the oral tradition. Oral tradition has to be modified depending upon the time, place, situation, condition. Then it won't be otherwise comprehended. Even if I give you a English book which was penned down, say about 1,000 years back, you will not understand that English. Even English, which is 5,000 years old, is not understood by our contemporaries. Mm-hmm. So the English has been changing time to time. And incidentally, let me tell you, somebody said about my English This was that John, who was ghost writer to Guruji's Light on Life.
Okay.
He was coming and studying in Pune. He told me he was an Oxfordian. He told me, Prashant, your English is 300 to 400 years old.
Wow. Better.
Um, yeah, it's not contemporary English. Your English, the style of using the language, a style of putting it across is 300 to 400 years old. The vocabulary that you are adhering to or embracing is something 300 years old.
Yes.
I do not know what was 300 years old English. Maybe in my previous incarnation, I was an Oxford professor or a student of Oxford. Possible. So I do not know what was that English it was 300 years, 400 years back. But he
That's
said he
very
remembers
interesting.
because he was a student of language, linguistics.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so that's why it is lively. Imparting of yoga, we don't say we are teaching you something very, 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 very old.
Yeah.
That is the Sanatan Dharma is reincarnating to be the same. We reincarnate not to be the same. Do you
Yeah.
understand?
Mm.
We reincarnate not to be the same, while our Sanatan Dharma is definitely reincarnating to be the same. And that is why it is eternal, it cannot be dislodged at all. It will never ever be dislodged.
Mhm.
It is self sustained, self sustaining, because it is malleable, pliable, it understands the time, and according to that time, it will devise and customize. It will reshape to suit the time. Because the time doesn't stop, the time cannot be frozen. We
Mhm.
cannot say we'll be eternally in 21st century for another 5 centuries. It's not possible. The times are going to change. But it is the living condition of our Sanatana Dharma is modifying. Like suppose you live very long. Now I have been adopting to conditions which were 60 years back, 50 years back. I have not been the same. I have to reinvent myself. So I have been teaching for 55 years. I have teach in the institute for these 52, 53 years, 52 years. I have been reinventing myself. I am not the same teacher, cannot be the same teacher because different generations of people have been coming.
Yes.
Westerners of 70s and Westerners of 2026, huge difference, ocean of difference. Your earlier generations of who came in 1970, 80s, etc., etc., we saw them. We saw those who came to institute in 1970s and 80s, 75 onwards, 80s and 90s. We know how they were, what they were, how the American was of 1975s and 1980s, and how the American today is of 2025 and 26. We can see the difference. And we have to change because we are encountering the different people of different thought background, thought culture.
Mhm.
So maybe if my teachings are not appreciated by older generation of Iyengar Iyengar yoga, they may not like. Many of them say I'm going against Guruji's teachings. I'm teaching differently. He taught us like this in 75, 78, 80, 82, 85, and I'm totally different, etc., etc. Yoga is eternal, it is ever fresh.
Mhm.
We go from stage to stage. We say we were young, now we are old, we will become old. If we are young today, we will become old. I am old, I cannot say I am young, I was young earlier. So, eternal tradition will not have age and stages.
Mhm.
And for that to happen, It has to reinvent.
Mhm.
And therefore, I'm not teaching. That's why I said I'm not teaching Iyengar yoga at all. I'm teaching Iyengar's yoga, yoga of him. And you are all practicing. You learned Iyengar yoga, Iyengar yoga, Iyengar yoga. I'm not teaching Iyengar yoga. I'm teaching Iyengar's
Mhm.
yoga, which he could not do. Now I have a facility to do that, and therefore I am doing. I would not have done if Guruji had not done the spade work and construction work. He raised the structure, and therefore I can do it.
Mhm.
So suppose to a 5-story building, nobody can come and say, I will build a 51st story. You will have to build all the stories from whatever are there. So 10, 15 to, you have to go to 28, 38, 48, 50th, and then we'll go to 51st.
Mhm.
You cannot have anything in between and right from 20th floor straight away 50th floor, 51st floor. Not possible. Every floor must be in place. So because Guruji did something, maybe he did his skyscraper of 25 stories, I can go from 25 onwards to 26 and 27th and 30th and 40th because it is eternal subject. So there is nothing like new and old. If something is going from old to new to old, new to old, it will perish. It cannot be eternal. Anyway, so point is that there is pre-Patanjali and post-Patanjali literature for it's a classification functional.
Mhm. Okay.
So I think maybe in the next time our round we will try to look into some of the texts. And I
Okay.
said the latest was 1935. The person took samadhi or passed away in 1935, and his text was accepted as classical text.
Can you say his name again, the author?
Okay, the author's name is Gulab Rao Maharaj. Gulab.
Okay.
Gulab. Gulab Rao Maharaj. And I have quoted in my commentaries in my those 4 volumes. In the first volume itself, I have quoted him.
Okay.
When I deal with Chitta Bhumi, Mood, Kshipta, Vikshipta, Ekagra, Niruddha, he has beautifully described the 5 bhumis. And there itself, I have introduced him.
This has been very educational, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaskar.
Okay. Namaskar. Thank you for listening to this episode of On the Light. Today, Prashantji reminds us that yoga has been preserved through 2 inseparable traditions: the timeless wisdom of the sacred texts and the living transmission from teacher to student. While the texts provide an enduring foundation, they cannot account for the unique needs of each individual. That is the role of the guru, to discern, adapt, and bring the teachings to life for the student standing before them. If you enjoy On the Light, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Click on Support the Show in the show notes. A small monthly donation helps support the continued production of this podcast. Thank you for listening to On the Light. Until next time, namaskar.